Last time on PokéStudies, we talked about how stats, moves, abilities, and types reflect a sort of simplified version of the Pokemon world. But have you stopped to think about what the level really means, or how and why Pokemon evolve? These are two of the most important mechanics of the games, so this might take a while to unpack. Let's start with level, since it's so important to the evolution mechanic. A Pokemon gains levels by earning battle experience, so it makes sense to think of the level as a representation of that accumulated experience. Kind of like a karate belt. Once you've practiced and proven your skill enough, you get to go up to the next stage. So at level 100, a Pokemon is basically a black belt, so no amount of experience is going to make it stronger. It's also worth mentioning that level has nothing to do with age, since we have heard from some NPCs whose Pokemon died without being fully evolved. For example, there is a trainer at Mount Pyre mourning his Exagoon, so maybe Pokemon that don't battle much, like ones kept as pets, just don't level up. So, evolution. There are so many different evolution methods, so I'm going to focus on the main ones: the basic level up, friendship, stone, and trade. And there is very little evidence for how evolution really works, so a lot of this is speculation, but I'm going to try to stay grounded in fact as much as possible. Pokemon can evolve at any point after reaching a certain minimum level, but in the wild, evolved Pokemon are much rarer, so it can't be like a caterpillar metamorphosing into a butterfly, where every individual will metamorphose. Instead, there may be some group dynamics at play. Think of how male lions are forced to either challenge the alpha or leave the pride when they mature. And imagine if they could remain juveniles and not have to go through that. The dynamics would be different for each species of Pokemon, but it's a useful comparison. If evolving into your final stage means you have to challenge the pack leader or leave the herd, there are advantages to delaying your metamorphosis. By the way, in this video, I am using metamorphosis and evolution interchangeably, since that's basically how it works in the Pokemon world. So what's with the minimum level? If level isn't age, then why can't a level 5 Mankey just evolve into a Primeape and challenge the troop leader? It could come down to survival, since a level 5 Primeape probably won't win the leadership if there are stronger Primeapes around. And maybe when there aren't stronger ones, some of them do evolve early, and that's why you can find some wild Pokemon below their natural level of evolution. But then why can't a captured Pokemon evolve early too? Domestication would remove any risk from the evolution, since there isn't really a group leader to challenge, which is probably part of the reason trained Pokemon evolve more frequently than in the wild. All of this doesn't add up, so there must be another factor, something that we don't really see in the games. One possibility is that evolution doesn't really happen instantly. Maybe it's a few minutes or a few days depending on the species. And the Pokemon might be vulnerable during this transition, since it has to expend a lot of energy to fuel this rapid change. In this case, a minimum amount of experience or fitness, the level, could help the Pokemon survive the transition. There isn't really any evidence for this, but I also haven't found any evidence against it. Friendship evolution is also triggered by levels, so I think a lot of what I just talked about still applies. But I think that there's two different kinds of friendship evolution, even though the games treat them the same. One for baby Pokemon, and one for everything else. The reason I think baby Pokemon are a special case is that most baby Pokemon and most direct evolutions of baby Pokemon can be found in the wild in some generation, while the others are pretty rare. Here's some data. There are 9 Pokemon that evolve by friendship from a baby. 6 of them are available as normal wild encounters, and they're even kind of common. There are also 9 Pokemon that evolve by friendship from non-baby Pokemon. And 7 of them can be found in the wild in some main series game, but only through special rare encounter methods like SOS battles or rustling grass. So if Pichu can easily evolve into Pikachu in the wild, but Chansey can't evolve into Blissey, there must be a difference. For baby Pokemon, the friendship thing is probably something like a parent bond. In the wild, it's provided by the parents or other members of the group, and in captivity, it's provided by the trainer. So this type of evolution is possible in both environments. The other friendship, though, must have something to do with some environmental factor that is rare in the wild, but relatively easy to come across through domestication. I don't really know what that could be, but there must be something about the change in environment or in group dynamics that allows that Pokemon to evolve further than usual. There is something very weird about evolutions that depend on leveling up. At level 100, you can't evolve anymore. And that could be just a matter of mechanics. At level 100, you can't gain a level, so you can't trigger the evolution. But we do have mechanics to force other changes that are normally dependent on leveling up, like stat changes. You can use the box trick or the playground at Isle Evelep, so I don't think mechanics are it. If a Pokemon reaches level 100 without evolving, it has been repeatedly told not to evolve. It could be that after so many opportunities, the behavior has been kind of conditioned out of it, and prolonged exposure to an Everstone could have the same effect. At this point, the Pokemon just doesn't know how to evolve anymore. Stone evolutions are also rare. You almost never see one in the wild. Of the 42 Pokemon that can evolve by stone, 23 can't be found in the wild at all. And of the ones that can, only 6 appear without a special rare encounter method. But why? Well, think about Eevee. It evolves into Glaceon by leveling up, but only if it's close to a special rock, one that has special elemental properties. There must be something very specific about the ice rocks that provide all of the right ingredients for Eevee to evolve. You take Eevee away from that special environment and it'll never evolve into a Glaceon. So what would we do if there was no ice rock nearby, but we wanted to evolve Eevee into Glaceon anyway? Maybe that's the problem for most Pokemon that evolve by stone. They require very specific environmental factors that are rarely or even never found in the wild. So what if human scientists devised a way to concentrate those sets of factors so that they can be deployed anywhere? Remember that all of the evolution stones except for the Moonstone carry inside of them a symbol of their element. It's hard to imagine that these would be naturally formed. I can't say exactly what makes these artificial stones work, but the fact is that they work so well that a Pokemon exposed to one can't help but evolve. There's no way to stop it. There are some holes in this theory, the main one being that there's very little evidence. And if the stones are concentrated versions of natural environments, then why can't the Leaf Stone and the Ice Stone evolve Eevee? What would they be artificial versions of if not the moss and ice rocks? And by the same token, why can't Gloom evolve at a moss rock or Alolan Vulpix at an ice rock? Plus, if wild Pikachu can evolve into Raichu at the Kanto power plant, why can't domesticated Pikachu evolve there? I don't have answers to these questions, so if you can think of something, please leave a comment below. Things get more complicated with trait evolutions. In a game development sense, trait evolutions were created to encourage players to interact and play together, but what does it mean in the in-world sense? Let's look at the numbers again. 26 Pokemon evolve by trade, and 10 of them can be found in the wild, but 5 of them require a special encounter method. So we know that trait evolutions are also rare in the wild. But what kind of unusual condition does a trait replicate? Honestly, the only thing I can think of is abandonment. If most Pokemon live in groups in the wild, it might be unusual for one of them to be evicted. But a domesticated Pokemon might also feel unwanted if it's given up by its trainer. Even a freshly caught Pokemon might feel disposable if it's quickly traded away after being removed from its home. This abandonment could trigger a self-protective instinct that causes the Pokemon to metamorphose into a stronger form. This instinct is so strong that you can't even startle the Pokemon to stop it from evolving. Again, there are problems with this theory, mainly that it suggests that every Pokemon of the species are prone to abandonment issues, since no Kadabra will ever be traded without evolving into an Alakazam. But I haven't thought of any better scenario, so if you can think of something, let me know in the comments. Whew. Thanks for hanging in there and going through this mess of Pokemon evolution with me. There are so many subcategories to all of these evolution methods, so I can't go into all of them in detail, but I do think that most evolutions fall somewhere in this framework. The next time on PokéStudies, we'll have a look at another major element of the Pokemon games, the Pokédex. And that episode is going to be really good. So if you're enjoying this series, please leave a like and subscribe. It means the world to me. I'm Umbreon Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter. But what do you want me to do? Like, I can't do a blooper on command.